to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First, just to let everyone know, our next meeting is January 8th at 7 o'clock in this office. Then again, on January 10th is the budget and bond hearing, 7 o'clock in this room. And then on January 22nd at 7 o'clock is a regular board meeting. Okay. Going a little bit out of order, and I apologize, probably my mistake. There's a warrant article for a softball assistant coach, and we'll hear from them first. Okay? Yes, please.
Appreciate you showing up. Thank you. Have a good, happy New Year, everybody. Root for Ohio State. It'll be
Yep.
My name is Lauren Rooney. I live at 5 Premier Drive, and we're here asking for
John, the only
money for
reason
an
I-
assistant
just
varsity
because,
softball coach for the
I didn't
softball team
get
at
that
school,
report out
at
to everybody.
Monterey High School.
And I think
Over
it
the
would be
past few
kinda
years,
just
there's a
spinning our
booster
wheels to
club,
a large
the
extent.
On Deck Club, that
sounds
supports the
sort of
softball
embarrassing
team.
trying to figure out
And
things.
we've done a lot of things over the past few
So
years.
you're looking for
We've
everybody to
fenced around
basically
the
take
field.
that
We've
bottom part of
bought
the
new
spreadsheet,
pitching
fill in
machines, new
their
equipment
Yeah.
that was greatly
portions
needed
as they see them.
in the field,
And then we
and
can
basically
hash it
gone
out on
from not
Tuesday.
having a field
If
over
you
at
wanna
the
send it
school
to
to
me,
having a
fine, I
great
can
field, probably one of the best
combine
in
'em
Class
and
L.
We can
At the same time, we've
try
been
to do
paying
the
for an
same thing we
assistant
did for the
coach, but
town.
we've been finding it harder and harder each year to come up with the money. Right now, we've done
Given
candle
that,
sales,
I think that
we
kinda
run
wraps
4
up,
bake
so can I have a
sales,
motion
the
to
girls
adjourn?
have
I'll
a
make that
calendar
motion.
raffle that's
A
been really
second?
successful. We have
All
car
those in
wash and a
favor, say
bowl-a-thon,
Aye.
an umpiring day,
So
and
ordered.
we've had 2 middle school dances each year. This year, one of the middle school dances, we had 2 of them booked, but one of them was taken away. I don't know, there's just been changes in the policy over at the middle school. So that was basically the cost of our assistant coach. And on top of that, arbitrary things, like having the car wash, we run into the spring sports with having 2 SAT dates, prom, there's a couple other things that come up. But we also have the rain, and in the last 2 years, the prom, we've had car washes planned that we haven't been able to have because it will rain and then games are rescheduled, and it's just hard for scheduling purposes. And also, we used to run an umpire day, which the last 2 years has been canceled because of rain. So our girls will umpire over at LAFA, and LAFA, instead of paying the umpires, will donate the money to the club. So those are 3 major fundraisers that haven't worked out in the past couple of years. So we're coming to you looking for that money, but the girls wanted to talk about why it's important for them to have.
We've been 38-5, and we were the state runner-up in Class L, which led us to the championship game in 2007. And we also were second place in Class L in 2006 and 2007. And by having an assistant coach at practice, we can practice on hitting and fielding at the same time by having 2 coaches. And it helps us kind of be at 2 places at one time with 2 coaches, and it allows us to work on 2 different things at the same time, and we get so much more done at practice. And we can do infield and outfield at the same time.
I'm Elizabeth McNamara, and having the 2 coaches helps enormously at tryouts because there'll be 2 different sets of eyes that'll see different things in different people, and so one can be running hitting while one can be running the fielding during the tryouts, so that helps out. And like Brooke said, one can be doing infield and one can be doing outfield at the same time, so so infield doesn't get more than outfield or vice versa. And it's much more productive that way at practice, so no one's sitting around or standing around being useless. And on the freshman and JV teams, there was only 1 coach, and there was a lot of standing around. And I was on both freshman and JV, and practices weren't really that productive. And like you stood around a lot when you had to wait for the infielders to be done. So, because I'm outfield, so I had to wait for all the infielders to be done to get some outfield. and they had to do the same. And it just, we are a lot more competitive since we've had an assistant coach. And setup for practice is a lot quicker because there are more people and they know what they're doing. So it helps out a lot.
Okay. Questions from the board? Go ahead, Steve.
You talked about that you have been funding an assistant coach for how many years?
We've only had an assistant coach for 2 years.
Okay, because it did sound like you had a time period where you didn't have an assistant coach. And how long have we been doing, my daughter was a catcher, so I should know the answer. I know a little bit of the answer, but how long have we been doing softball, girls softball?
At the high school?
It's
I
gotta go.
think probably since it started, right?
Yeah, real close, and it's one of the first sports that came in.
Okay, so since the 70s, you guys have been working with one coach. And then in the last 2 years, you've added a coach that the boosters have been funding. Do you guys understand the process of the Warren article and what it means? No? When a citizen's petition comes forward and you do a Warren article, you're asking the voters to approve on it at the polls. So it will actually read, you guys have made it, you guys have submitted it, correct?
Right.
Yes.
So exactly what you wrote will be at the polls and presented to the voters. Do you know how many voters have to support it for you guys to get this?
It's not a number. It's not a trick question.
Here, look at this number.
Well, she was looking at you guys, who was sending her
Oh.
Premier Drive, so. No, it's 50%. It's 50%, it's a simple majority. So you need one vote over 50% to go to the polls and say yes, that they would support it. What's the total dollar figure?
1620.
Okay, so you're going to have to lobby voters to go to the polls and say yes, they want to spend $1,620 this year.
Okay,
Well,
Sorry
can
for
I,
the
can I add a
sentence
caveat to that?
go
Ron?
ahead.
It does, that sounds more scary than it is. The board does take a position on petition warrant articles. So if the board votes one way or the other, the voters do look at that, and that is tied to the petition at the bottom, if I'm not mistaken, what the board's vote is when you go into the ballot booth and vote. So I believe on what day is that, Ron? The 10th?
Yes.
On the 10th, the board takes a position on the warrant article, so it's, I think we'll be okay from the board's perspective, but I can't speak for everybody.
Yeah, not to be conversational, but last year we had a warrant article brought forward by Robert Lincoln that the board supported, but the voters said no.
Oh, I didn't say they supported 100%.
Yeah,
Well, you're making it sound,
scary.
it may be, but the board does take a position on it, so.
Now, just so the public understands too, once the voters vote this in, it's been the practice of the board to then have that as a position every year. So it isn't that you would have 1 year. Do you have some examples of that, Ron? Different positions?
Well, last year we voted in the lacrosse assistant coach, and that was it. And all the sporting teams that we voted in, the voters voted in swimming. It wasn't for 1 year, it was for the continuous program. Hockey, volleyball. So it's, football was voted in that way. In fact, in Londonderry, every sport that is put into the high school at a varsity level is voted on by the residents of the town to say, yes, I want this, or no, I don't want this. And that's how it's done. The board does not put in a sport by itself. Nate?
Just a reminder for everybody, January 10th is when the board has its budget hearing, so you might want to come to that meeting. And then also February 8th is deliberative session. So you would have an opportunity at deliberative session when that warrant article comes up to speak to it and respond to any questions that people have in the audience. So those would be two dates that I put down. And that's at the high school CAF, yes,
Yeah.
on the 8th, okay?
You could also, once the primary's over, next Tuesday,
Yes.
newspapers will have nothing to write on. And they love to hear stories about success things like your great record and what the girls are doing, so.
And I wasn't trying to make it scary, I was trying to just,
Yes, he was.
Did you succeed?
well, it's, but I want you to understand the process. And I think last year at the deliberative session, we didn't have a presentation.
No, we did not have a presentation.
And it had an effect. It got people to think that if you care about your sport and you're very interested in this, I think taking a civic responsibility and letting everyone know, as Mr. Herman indicated, telling the press, getting out there and saying this is something that we need is a good thing.
Plus all your teachers that live in town and all the seniors, I'm sure there's plenty of seniors that are 18 that'll be able to vote in March.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
questions from you? Any other questions? Okay,
I
thank you
think they
very,
just want to run for the hills. They
Right.
think they just, let me out.
thank you very much for the
Thanks,
presentation.
girls. Good luck.
But,
Yeah, just don't publish the last names. Mary, don't publish the last names.
Okay,
did you get the spelling?
They're minors.
Oh,
Yeah, the last names, we don't need. Kids.
okay. Budget discussions. Okay.
Alrighty
Uh,
then.
Anything from the Budget Committee? Or,
Mike loves this part.
Well, we had a meeting last night, and Dan and, Peter and Ben attended. And we had a discussion around where we were. We only had 4 members, but that represents a quorum of our board. And we talked about some things that we were hoping the board would consider in terms of reductions beyond what the superintendent has provided to this point. One of those areas was, Nate had mentioned that enrollment gave him an opportunity to reduce a teacher at Matthew Thornton. However, he wanted to keep that in this budget in case there was some potential increases seen at the North School. And we obviously understood the concept. We understood what Nate was trying to do. On the other hand, as a budget committee, the consensus last night was that unless we have a known situation, we feel we're better off taking advantage at any time that we can to further reduce the most significant expense in the budget, which is personnel. So we were hoping that we would forego that position, remove it from the budget, and then should that situation come to be, we would hope that the board and the superintendent would manage to it at that point versus keeping a position in the budget in lieu of something that may not happen. So that was an area that we were probably looking to recommend from an advisory standpoint. We also discussed the IT budget. Of all the departmental budgets, that particular department had approximately an 18% increase from last year, which is pretty significant when you look at the overall percent increase in the budget, and particularly when you look at the other departments. Peter obviously did a good job of explaining how the new student management system has an impact on that budget, but even when you include that, that budget still goes up by double-digit %, and it also does the same thing in the capital lease. So we were looking to see if there was some reductions in that particular area as well. We also talked about, there was some thoughts, at least on my part, whether the 2 pilot studies that were mentioned, which were $20,000 each, we wanted to know whether doing more than 1 pilot in any given year, whether that was an unusual circumstance or whether the board typically sees that type of thing, thinking that maybe it could be staggered so that you'd have 20,000 this year and then 20,000 next year. Ben explained his position from a board perspective, and we didn't feel comfortable as a budget committee to go forward with that recommendation. In other words, it seemed like a policy decision, a curriculum decision, and you would decide on your own whether you want to go forward. So those were the general areas that we discussed. We did not go through the budget line by line last night. We decided not to do that after discussing it amongst ourselves and with Peter and with Ben. And we wanted to see what kind of board feedback and input may take place tonight with the superintendent. That with the schedule, we do have another opportunity to come back with what we would say is a formal advisory recommendation from the Budget Committee. So that kind of sums up where we're at based on last night's meeting.
Tom?
We also discussed the warrant article for the generator. Although we didn't take a position of support for or against the expenditure, we did seem to reach a consensus that expense felt more like a town expense, and that we wanted to encourage you to have some discussion with the council to see if perhaps that might be more appropriate, moved over to the town side, not as an educational expense, but as a civil defense expenditure. And also, there were pros and cons of doing that. The pros of leaving it where it is that more people will cast their up or down vote for it because of the type of government. The cons were that on the council, if it's funded on the council side, although it's a one-to-one cost to the taxpayers, the council has more options for funding than you have. So we thought that I know it's kind of late in the process, but we thought that was worth a suggestion to have a discussion with the council to see if they'd be willing to carry that on the town government side.
Any other comments? Jay?
Just as an exercise, I took the 54 summary lines, not too detailed, and looked, there was a fair number of them that came in at or below what default would be. And if you took the remainder of them and could bring them back just to a default level, not beyond, some of them were beyond, and Peter has given me some explanatory materials. We just got it, so I haven't even really looked at it yet. But the delta between the two was 237,000 out of the 61 million for the lines that didn't quite get back to default.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Why don't I start this? I appreciate the time over the holidays. I took a look at the budget, and I'm going to throw up a straw dog to the board and see where they come out as. And I'm not coming up with specific cuts, but if I had to, I can justify the numbers. What I'd like to see us do, to see if the superintendent can reduce the budget between $200,000 and $230,000. That would be a zero tax impact without the generator in the budget. That includes the budget plus all the warrant articles except the generator, the two contracts, and that would be a zero tax impact. So I'm wondering if by Tuesday, if you can come back with cuts, if that's a feasible thing, and how we would affect the budget if we came back by that much. That's my number right now, and I'll open it up to the floor.
Well, we've talked about this over the last few days, and or you and I have, and I agree with that. And as to the generator, I was a strong proponent of the generator going back in the early days when we built the high school addition, and we said we often long needed space. But listening to Tom's presentation, I think it probably makes sense for us to look at. We tried to put it on as a warrant article. I believe the board support, or probably would have supported that, in an attempt to get a generator purchased and provide an evacuation site if necessary in event of a catastrophic issue. But I think it may make more sense to put that on the town side. I mean, I'm a taxpayer too, Tom, but that does make more sense to me, as long as it doesn't fall another year, another 2 years, another 3 years. At least gets out to the voters and let the voters make a decision. So if we did pull it off, I guess I'd like Nate or us to talk to the council or Dave Karen relative to making sure that there's a generator, at least my opinion, a generator at some point or place in this year's either deliberative session or town meeting, or not deliberative session, but the ballot or town meeting. The question I have in your proposal, Ron, it includes all the warrants, including the petition warrants. Is that what you have in mind as well?
the numbers I ran, and I could be off by it, but that 220 to 230,000 will cover everything except the generator.
So that'd be the budget, 2 contracts, the
South School,
South School, or no, not South School, that's a bond.
Ri-
But the petition for the fields
right,
and the petition for, if they pass.
right. And I
And the
believe if
petition
you look
for
at the numbers, while it doesn't cover the bond itself, it covers the first year's payment.
Oh, yeah, well, that's in the budget now, is it not, the first year's payment, if it would pass?
Well, first interest payment.
Yes, that's what I meant.
So that's where my head was at this idea. And I'll go back. I agree with you, Tom. I'm not a supporter of putting the generator on the school side. I haven't heard a clamor from the town saying, I want this, I need this, I really want it. I expected it, if it came on our side, to come in as a warrant article from the civil defense group or that group there. So I'm more than willing to ask Nate to go back and talk to Dave Karen about putting that on, seeing if they can do that, or use the, what's the exact terminology they? Fund balance to pay for that, which would be a really good use of that monies to go to the community. Nate?
I guess that there would be a timing issue too. So, I mean, we can initiate conversation with Tom, since, Dave rather. And we may not be able to bring all that stuff to fruition with any action by the council by January 10th. Okay, but the board would then still have an opportunity up until deliberative session, because I think, right, Peter?
Yes, you could have $1. You can't, in deliberative session, you can't pull the article, but you could bring it down to $1. In effect, you're killing it. You're not putting any money to it.
If the town agreed to go forward with it. And I guess if whatever confluence of actions, opinions, whatever, if, I'm just trying to understand the board's direction. If the town cannot come to an agreement on doing that, I guess my recommendation would be to continue to keep that item as a warrant article, to vote on. I agree, it's probably, in all probability, it is a town function. We just felt that there was such a community need for it that we should go ahead and do it. I mean, and perhaps I became more sensitive to it today because, it's really cold out, and if you had a power outage, you've got all these senior citizens or people who would have no place to go, in effect, and having a generator in town. And if you look at our recent history, when we had the floods, last couple of springs, it wasn't that long ago, although I was sunning myself in Arizona, we had a major ice storm here, 9 years ago, 8-9 years ago, and power was out for over a week. And there's really no place in town for anybody to go.
Nate, I hear what you're saying. Just for me, it's if roles and responsibilities, town should say, I want that, let's do it this way or not do it this way. I mean, this has been an issue that's been up there for quite a long time, and I have not heard a voice from the town as a proponent of this on there. I guess that's the issue I'm saying. So maybe it's not, maybe we're putting more importance in it than they are. I mean, that's really what it is. We don't need it for doing what we do. We've got the portable generator to keep the buildings functioning, make sure nothing freezes on that. We made the arrangements there, but I mean, if it's not that important to them, maybe we're putting a different importance on it than they are. Peter?
In that light, I would say yes, because you can remember South School is the evacuation center. And going back to last spring, when we had the flooding, we had quite a bit, we had almost between 75 and 100 people in the South School gym with no heat, no food, and no power. The reason why we brought it up was because there's the assumption that South School has a generator, and it does. It's a very small generator that just keeps the pumps flowing and keeps the pipes from freezing. There is no, the generator does not provide the power to provide heat or electricity or food in that gymnasium. So when you say putting, a little importance to it. We're putting importance to it, the fact that our gymnasium in South School is being used as the evacuation center. I think from our standpoint, we'd like the high school gym to be the evacuation center, because it has a lot less effect on education by having it in a standalone building, the high school gym, than having a evacuation center in the South School gym where classes could be conducting, and we've got a whole room taken up by the local Red Cross. That's, I think, where Nate and I were coming from when we said, how about putting this on the water? I see what you're saying, I'm not disagreeing with you.
When this first came up, I expected I'll be honest, from my point of view, I expected a warrant article from a group of people saying this is what we need for an evacuation center, and then being part of that, and I have no problems with that. I just never saw that, so I'm just quiet on it. I mean, I'm just not hearing the uproar on it, and maybe this is not the year to spend an additional $100,000.
Well, you're not hearing an uproar because nobody needs it right now. That's why you're not hearing an uproar. I mean, we opened that shelter, I think, at least 3 times last year at South School.
Right.
So the need becomes, and I happen to agree with Tom, I think there's more options
Yes.
on the town side. But as far as not hearing an uproar, you're not gonna hear it until I've got 1,000 people that can't go anywhere. So the uproar, it's a preventative item. I think that some folks thought that the generator that we had would keep that building going, when in turn, it's really not big enough to generate. So it's not just food, it's things like people gotta be in there for days, there's showers in the high school gym, we can segregate it. And frankly, for me, I agree with Tom, I think it's a town issue, but I would not do it because the town's not gonna do it. The people of town need we need somewhere to provide for the community. I mean, in the past, it's always been the way South School is set up. And if it takes us, or if it takes this board, or at least me, and, you know, whoever, Dan, to sit and say, yeah, you know what, it really doesn't belong here, but it's not, I'm not willing to risk going another year
So
forward, so, but I think we should definitely have Peter and Nate talk to the people in town, and I'll reach out to some of the council and see where they stand on it. I have a feeling I know where they stand on it, but we'll see.
okay, I understand.
That's, you know, I'm 1/5, as Dan
No,
says.
all I'm saying, my point is, though, I would not expect the citizens to rise up. I would expect the leadership of the council and the town to say, this is something we need, will you put it on the ballot, we're supporting this. That's what I'm looking for, I'm not hearing that part of it. It's not the
don't
1,000
disagree.
people. It's not the 1,000
I
people,
don't
because they
disagree.
don't understand until they need that issue. And then why isn't it there? It's the leadership.
I misunderstood.
Nate, on this point, did we have intermixing of refugees and students during the flooding? In other words, when there was flooding,
Oh,
did we have school in session?
yes.
At the same time
Yes.
that when I say refugees, I mean
Yes.
those people that were
Yes.
out of their Londonderry homes.
Evacuees.
I believe it
Back
was,
to these.
was it 2 days, Linda, or 1?
That's why everybody got
2.
confused.
We had, yes, we had 2 days where we had school in session, and we had people that were still using the South School facility. Yes.
And that's what, just to interrupt, that's what I was talking about when Nate and I got together and talked about it. It was to bring it to the board, if nothing else, discussion. To say, we need to find a better, we need to have a better location for this type of purpose than the South School gym. So that's why I think Nate and I made it a discussion item, if nothing else.
And to that point, I think that it needs to continue to be a discussion item in the community, although I believe I would support some innovative funding opportunities that may exist. It'll be interesting if we have $1, because the board will be able to change it unless we get a quorum. Then the whole community could change it.
Anything else on the generator? Okay, we'll go back to the idea is my original number to ask Nate to look at between $200,000 and $230,000 with a zero tax impact. Any more, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to speak to that one
Sure.
also. When Ron uses the term zero tax impact, and it's Peter's the one I'll look at on this. Are we taking into that number the growth in the tax base that we are projecting?
No, we take, the only growth we take in the tax base is new construction.
Yes, exactly.
Just new construction. Like, if she was gonna do Karen was gonna do a 5% increase in all real value now, that's not taken into account. It's what we project with new construction as of April 1st would be. That number plus the tax base of, this year is what we have down as the tax base to be used for calculations.
Okay, so the answer to my question is yes, that when Ron says $0 tax impact, you are taking into account an estimate in the growth of our tax base.
Yes.
When I say growth of our tax base, I'm not referring to increasing the tax number or the assessment changes. We're talking about new construction of homes minus expense of the children that come to those homes, and new construction of stores and businesses, commercial entities, minus the tax impact of services we may provide to them, the town may provide to them. Okay.
Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, just one more thing, when we say tax impact, we're also putting into the mix the state property tax. Just so everyone-
Right, and so everybody understands, because we anticipate, we look at the tax bill as both the local property tax as well as the statewide property tax, which gives us our total number. The state is projecting a decrease in the statewide property tax, so that means locally we pick up more, but the net would be basically the same level. So we're looking at I would be looking at the net, not to reduce our portion. The state portion is still our portion, but it would be total impact if that's what you're looking at.
Any comments from Board Budget Committee?
Ron,
Go ahead.
I mean, zero impact based on what we know today,
Yes.
subject to change, and it will change, one way or the other. Revenue may change.
Revenue can always change. The big numbers, I think, will be fairly stable. The statewide adequacy money was based on a 2-year budget, so we should be getting the same amount of money. I seriously doubt that even if the state finally costs out and funds an adequate education at an appropriate level, it wouldn't impact us for the next fiscal year. We did take into account a decrease in Medicaid, and that's been confirmed. We reduced we're projecting a reduction, and my guess is, based on information that Brian shared with me today, that it looks like the new federal regs will eliminate the transportation section of Medicaid, where we used to get reimbursement, but we already took that into account when we projected the revenues. So there may be variations in building aid or catastrophic aid, but the big ticket items should be pretty much as what we put down here, and we were conservative with our numbers as always have been. So.
Yeah, usually at this time, if there was any doubt on CAT or building usually emails are flowing through the ASBO people, use 97% or use 98%. I haven't seen any of those yet, so those numbers seem to be stable at appropriate level funding.
The recommendations we would make would be based on the figures that you've got in here, Ben, and, it may go up or down a little bit, and what we return at the end of the year may change too, so.
Okay. Just one other thing for the board and the budget. Go ahead, Mike.
Just a point of clarification, and I apologize if I missed it. Are you looking for Nate to come back with 200 to 230 in addition to the 53 he's under?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. One other thing, just for the boards, and you'll see it on the next meeting. I've asked Nate if it's legal and is able to do it, is to put together a warrant article next year for any funds we have excess over at the end of the year. We have a benefit account or a retirement fund account. And what I'm thinking here, and they're gonna check it out, see the legality of this, is we know that retirement is going to go up next year. The cost of retirement, just the way they're funding this thing as an amortization over a 30-year period. If we put in so much money, $100,000 or $200,000, we'll be able to take a bite out of that apple in 2 years instead of hitting it all in the first year of the biennium. So it's just something for you guys to chew on. I just thought it was something that may be worthwhile from excess money. So if we can put, say it's a $400,000 increase, if we could put $200,000 in, we save $200,000 from the funds and we use it next year, then we only have to raise the budget 200 in 010. Is it 010? The next budget?
Yes.
Yeah, 010, and then 200,000 in 011, and it'll just kind of level it out a little bit. Just something to think about as just an idea of how to levelize this over a period of time.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, and Nate can correct me, but Dave Karen, who serves in some capacity up in Concord on the working group, indicated that the increase we're likely to see on the school and town side is probably going to be equal, if not more, than what we saw before, which was $640,000 on the school side. So I like the idea that, we obviously see this train coming, and if there's some way to kind of preemptively soften the blow while powers that be work on correcting the system if they can over the next 10 years. So I kind of like that idea individually.
Okay. Peter?
I'll let the board know when, Tuesday, we'll have a presentation on the South School renovation and construction project. We are meeting Saturday morning. We'll have the guaranteed maximum price. We'll have representatives from Profile and Frank there. And the group will be assembled. We will have final numbers, the scope, and obviously the project. We'll do a presentation to the board on Tuesday, and then obviously the bond hearing opens up the discussion on Thursday. But just like here, we have a presentation, ask any questions, and then obviously move on. Any questions you might have thought of, we have the following night. So,
Okay.
Ron?
Yes.
Where do we leave the generator warrant article?
We'll talk about it with the rest of the articles. Right now, it stays the way it is,
All right.
and Nate's got an action to go talk to Dave Karen, see if we can get some
Okay.
town work on that, and we can go through this until the deliberative session.
Okay.
Okay? Seeing nothing else to discuss this evening, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's a 40-minute meeting,
We'll look
guys.
for discussion on that.
I know.
What do now?
What happened?
You don't have to go home?